Here, near the shores of Lake Titicaca, are large cylindrical stone structures that are said to be tombs and burial chambers from the ancient Amara Peruvian culture. They are called chullpas and are scattered throughout the region. At least these structures seem to be scattered, just as they seem to be burial towers. In this episode, we will investigate the claim that these are burial towers. We will take a closer look at these stone structures not only here around Lake Titicaca, but in the area around Peru, and indeed throughout the world, and discover that there are thousands and thousands of them. We will look for patterns, and we'll look for connections. Connections that would suggest that our planet, or a sizable portion of it, has, at one point in the past, been mined. Mined Earth, Season 1 Peru, Episode 8, Tombs and Tanks. Chullpas. Are these really burial towers? The theory that these chullpas are burial towers sounds reasonable, but does not seem to hold up very well even upon a quick preliminary inspection. It seems to be based on speculation, stories, and convenience. This is a sign in front of the Chullpas in Sulistani. Although there have been claims to have found bodies in these chullpas, there is no evidence remaining today. These photos show no indication that they were taken at this site. These structures that are considered to be tombs have no bodies, no bones, no coffins, no sarcophagus, and an overwhelming majority of these structures have no evidence of a burial at all. The same seems to be true for the idea that some of these structures may have been homes. Often the evidence is assumed to have existed, or it is fabricated altogether, like here in Fortel del Quipa, where the roof is not original, and it was built just to demonstrate a possible working theory. The idea does get reinforced. As we will see in nearby Arapa, there are actual burial chambers and burial tombs that have been found. And upon closer examination, there's certainly not the same architectural standard of the chullpas in Sulistani or in Cotimbo. And in this case, an obviously less sophisticated building technique was used to build a burial tomb on top of a polygonal, more ancient platform. Counterintuitively, there is a phenomena that the further you go back in time, the more sophisticated the architecture becomes. The more ancient, the more mysterious. It seems like more recent cultures tend to emulate the building styles of the past, but to a lesser effect. Human remains have been found in these smaller, more recently built burial chambers called chullpas. This seems to corroborate the idea that the larger, much older, ancient engineering marvels may also have been tombs, even though there is no actual evidence to suggest it. Lumping all of these obviously different structures under the same name of chullpa certainly does cloud the real purpose of the more ancient structures they seem to emulate. Even in Sulistani, we see two different styles of stonework, this time one inside of the other. The inner stone pile has the same look as many of the known burial tombs in the area. But why would anyone go through all the trouble of building a structure using a much more intricate technological techniques, only to go and pile uncut rocks seemingly haphazardly within it? In this third image, we can see smaller stones and mortar at the top of the polygonal structure. This seems to blend two distinct stoneworking methods together. This is not original. It turns out many of these towers have been reconstructed. Even today, we lack the technological prowess of the original builders. Unable to duplicate their techniques, we are left besmudging the true artistry with our lackluster reconstructive solutions. This mess of patchwork does compound perceived misconceptions as the two styles seem to blend together. I suppose the story is good for business, as these wood engravings can attest to. It reads, "This is an original 1875 black and white wood engraving featuring the interior of an Imera chullpa, an ancient Imera tower and tomb, constructed for a noble family, in which the corpses were placed with their clothing and belongings." Is this what noble families wore? I wonder how they came to the consensus that these would be their final burial outfits. What in the world are these miniature or bound-up corpses doing? Sold out! Whether these wood carvings were actually made in 1875, or whether they are based more on historical fiction than historical fact, which, ironically, may be the more accurate of the two in the end, is irrelevant, I suppose, if both parties involved in the exchange are happy. For fans of the macabre, there are some sinister burial findings in northern Peru, sure to pique the sensitivities of the curious. In a climate-controlled room in Limambamba, Peru, sit more than 200 mummies, some staring right at you with disturbingly well-preserved expressions of fear and agony. Are they connected to Mind Earth? They are, but not because they are buried in ancient stone cylindrical chullpas. They weren't. They were discovered on the sides of a cliff overhanging or overlooking Laguna de los Condors, now known as Laguna de los Mummies. However, nearby are the mysterious ancient ruins of Fortaleza de Chullpa, which do have many large cylindrical stone structures. The fact that here the ancient stone cylindrical structures are described as dwelling, again with little to no actual archaeological evidence, will do little to distract from the visual connection linking the mummies to stone structures, and thus inadvertently contributing and reinforcing the current narrative that many stone cylindrical structures like the Chullpas in Silistani are burial towers. We won't leave empty-handed. There are Mind Earth connections everywhere, and there are connections to our story here too, clues to corroborate our premises. The mummies in this area are linked to this story. An area, by the way, which is known to have gold. The area boasts two of the world's most massive modern gold mines, Goldfields La Clima and Yanacocha. This is a big-time prime gold mining area on our planet. Not surprising, there's a lot of Mind Earth connections in this region. Mind Earth criteria number 5, present-day gold mines. Explore the regions around present-day gold mines, and you're likely to find evidence of ancient mining. No doubt we could stay here for quite a while, and no doubt we'd find evidence of ancient mining. For now, let's just limit ourselves to one more interesting connection before heading back to Silistani. A mummy, now known as the Lady of Cow, was found in yet another nearby ancient ruin site named El Brujo. The mummy was reconstructed using modern CSI techniques. The complete reconstructed project now stands fully adorned on display. Why would this be of interest to us? She's wearing a fully golden suit, wielding 2 large golden shafts, and adorning a large golden crown, which look like 2 big rounded horns. This is an image we are familiar with. She's dressed in the image of the creator god, Viracocha, Pachacamac. It is the same god in almost all ancient cultures. The god who created us in their image. The god who gave us seeds to grow our food. The god who brought writing. The god that brought knowledge. The god that saves us from the flood. The god who we adorn with gold. It always comes back to this god. A god who is known by many names by many different cultures, and a god that we here at Mind Earth call Enki. Enki, one of the first Anunnaki to have come to the earth to mine gold. Finding the Lady of Cow adorned in gold and emulating the creator god lends more credence to the Mind Earth criteria number 5. Creator god mythology. Find references to this creator god, and you'll probably find evidence of ancient mining. And that was Nanabush, the Ojibwe incarnation of the creator god Enki. So we have yet another accounting of the creator god, and we have concrete evidence of megalithic construction in the form of polygonal masonry. But if not tombs, what is the purpose of the many ancient stone cylindrical structures, including some of the ones they called chullpas? This web link looks promising. The funerary towers of Silistani, Peru. And a quick away reveals the actual web link. The tomb is in Egypt. Egypt. Hey, there's another place that says their large stone structures are tombs without evidence as well. So if they're not tombs, what are they? Tombs and temples, tanks and plants. Using the lenses of Mind Earth to look at these large, megalithic stone structures, it jumps right out at us. If you're going to mine gold effectively in any capacity, you need tanks. And these ancient structures that we find all over Peru, and will eventually in almost every ancient mining location on Earth, they look remarkably like what are referred to in the gold mining business as ore processing, flotation, or gold leaching tanks. Perhaps these structures were used as tombs at one point. But what if their original purpose and primary design construction was to act as what they look like, or processing leaching tanks? As remarkable as this idea seems to be, it does fit the narrative we are trying to build. In fact, the idea that they are leaching tanks and not funerary towers would help explain many questions surrounding the sites that seem to confound present-day archaeologists. One such enigma that confuses are the ridiculously small doors at the bottom of the structures. This would confuse archaeologists as to why they would leave such a small doorway to get the bodies in and out of these tombs. Many, like the ones here in Silistani, actually have a cap rock that fit inside the opening to seal them airtight. This is confusing if you see it as a tomb, but would make perfect sense if it was a tank. Small, airtight trapdoors are a practical feature in almost every leaching tank design. These access areas can be opened occasionally and used to remove ore tailings that have settled to the bottom of these leaching tanks, after the gold has been leached out into the cyanide extraction solution. So that explains the small doors at the bottom of these towers. What about these small little windows on the side? Yep, they have an explanation too. In most tanks there's going to be an inlet or outlet access area for solution to be either put in or out of the tank. Now some of these structures that would be squeezed into the explanation of dwellings with small vents, no windows, now take on a more robust and engineered purpose. The two small holes being perfectly situated as intake and outlet access points to the tank. So, as we begin to examine mining tanks, even from a preliminary superficial perspective, we look at their design, their purpose, and we start seeing very similar characteristics in the circular stone structures, similar sizes, similar groupings. And they can be found all over the world, like these ones in Spain, still confusing people until now. And here in Zimbabwe, yet another. We start to see hidden characteristics of these structures. For example, the small outlet valve at the bottom of this tank. As we begin to explore these structures, we quickly realize that they are very important. We find them all around Lake Titicaca, all the way up the valleys towards Cusco, and once we recognize them for what they may be, they turn up just about everywhere that Mined Earth predicts ancient mining may have occurred. They take on a greater significance as indicators than we might first have expected, so much so that they have been endowed with the status of Mined Earth Criteria number 12, Large Cylindrical Stone Structures, which could act as ore processing, flotation, or gold leaching tanks. Find large circular stone structures and you will most likely find evidence of ancient mining.